Welcome to this segment on increasing user adoption with Visualforce. I want to take about 2 minutes and do a brief introduction using PowerPoint, and then I'll show you some examples in Salesforce on how to use Visualforce. Let me briefly introduce some of the challenges that organizations face related to user adoption. A lot of salespeople and users really see Salesforce.com as a management tool. And I won't belabor this point, but I run into this all the time where people see the tool as something that management purchased so that they can be essentially managed, and it doesn't necessarily provide anything that makes their job easier. I think we all agree Salesforce.com is very easy to use, but in some cases it's not relevant, meaning the data might be corrupt, it might not provide features that salespeople or users really need. And so what I always like to say is users need tools that are easy to use and are relevant to their specific job. So I just want to introduce a very basic methodology that's loosely built on the Agile implementation model. And the idea is that if you're trying to build a solution for a user, start by understanding what their issues are. So I always say scratch the itch. So invest some time in identifying what are those things that cause them to be unproductive or waste time. Then once you identify a list of things that they need, focus on those things that you can implement very quickly, what I call low-hanging fruit. So the idea being that, yeah, there might be 15 things they want, but let's focus on 2 or 3 of those things. And then break those things into smaller releases, or what I call small bites, more meals. So instead of doing 3 releases a year, try doing 12 releases a year, but with 2 or 3 features. So let's say 1 release a month, but you're implementing 2 or 3 releases, 2 or 3 features. So the idea is to create more of a rhythm of solutions that are being deployed, and that just means smaller releases with smaller features. And then finally, in the testing process, you want to include your users. So if they were involved in helping you identify the problems, you want to include them also in the testing. Now, you don't want to do a lot of testing, meaning you don't want them to be spending more time testing than their job. So that's, it's predefined, it's sort of pre-scheduled, but you want them involved in the process. So they help you identify the problem, and they help you create the solution. And then finally, you do it again. So you test, release, and then you start over again with the next release. Now I'm going to briefly introduce Force.com, and I wanted to do this because Force.com is really the foundation for Visualforce and Apex and some of those other things that I'm going to introduce. But put simply, Force.com is the development environment that supports Salesforce.com. And the main point that I wanted to make is that using Force.com via Visualforce pages and Apex allow you to create solutions that are very tailored to the specific problem you're trying to solve. And by saying very tailored, what I'm really getting at is you can build a solution that's very elegant, that doesn't require a lot of extra clicks, because you're building the user interface unique to the specific problem you're solving. Let me start by just adding a little bit more description to what the Force.com environment looks like. For those of you that are administrators, you're familiar with the setup screen in Salesforce. And as you know, there are standard objects in Salesforce, such as accounts, contacts, and opportunities. The biggest thing I wanted to point out about Visualforce versus standard layouts is that in a standard layout in Salesforce, for example, I'll use the account layout, you're using the layout that's been designed for millions and millions of users. And while it's very useful, it does have some limitations. And those limitations were designed so that it's easy to modify and configure it, but it works in a fairly standard way. So for example, if I want to edit records in a standard layout, I can do that by clicking on those fields, and I can access pick lists and other things like that. But if I wanted to, for example, edit multiple records at one time, I'd have to save my changes in one record and then go to another record and do the same thing. So Visualforce, as an example, would allow you to create a layout where you see multiple records in one screen, edit those on the fly or in what we call more of a dynamic mode, and then save all of those changes. So the point I'm getting at is that Visualforce is designed so you can configure it to meet the specific need of your user. And so just to give you a quick intro into where the information is, I talked about standard objects, which are the custom object that are under the Customize section here in App Setup. I can also create custom objects, which means I'm creating those tables that are specific to what I need. But then I get into the development area within Salesforce. Now my goal in this video is not to show you how to create a Visualforce page. My goal is to show you what they're capable of doing so that you can understand how you may want to consider using them. So in this example, I can click on my Visualforce pages, which is my pages section. I can also create custom code, which is known as Apex, that sits behind those pages and allows me to create that user environment that does whatever I want. So again, the big idea is standard functionality in Salesforce is great for basic configuration, but if you want to build something that meets the unique need of your user, Visualforce and Apex are a great place to explore and are great tools to help you do that. So this is an example of a Visualforce page that we built for a customer and then have also turned into an app. And we call that product Activity Coach. And the idea was to create a custom interface that meets the need of a specific user. And so what Activity Coach allows a sales rep to do is it allows a rep to schedule activities for themselves, which is a standard Salesforce function. But those activities can actually be predefined emails or actual phone calls. And the main thing that this does for the rep is it allows them to look at the tasks that they have for any given day, and then on the right hand side of their screen immediately see everything that they need to know about that task and that contact, so that they don't have to drill down and go navigate various other places in the application. So in this case, they can go into the history for this contact, John Doe, and they can actually look at the last thing that they said to the contact. So this is the first call that was made to that contact on 12/13, and this was the first activity that they performed on December 1st. And so they can see what they've been doing with this contact without, again, having to drill down and look at the contact itself. So what that does is it eliminates clicks. So if I'm looking at my task list for the day, I can say, yep, this is the task that I want to do for John Doe, and I want to go ahead and fulfill these other tasks for these other two users, other contacts rather. And so within one place, within one interface, I can do multiple things. And so as an example, I hit complete. It completes all my tasks for that day that I selected. And now those three contacts received an email from me. Now there's other things that are happening behind the scenes here, and that behind the scenes intelligence is what we call Apex. So by combining Visualforce and Apex, you can create a unique solution that gives the user that elegant user experience that you might be dreaming of, but it doesn't necessarily require you to use those standard features in Salesforce.com. So that's a quick example. I'll be creating other videos that show you some other examples of Salesforce.com and Force.com and Visualforce. But I want to just give you a quick introduction to that so you can get a feel for how do I come up with a solution that's unique to what my users need, that scratches the itch that I mentioned earlier, but then creates a user experience that's elegant and productive, that saves them time and makes them more productive. Thank you. Thank you for the time that you've invested in this. If you'd like to contact me or have any questions about any of the comments that I've made, please feel free to email me at my email listed here, or contact us via our website, or you can call 877-553-0485. You can also access my calendar link directly and see available times and actually schedule a 30-minute call with me if you prefer. The calendar link is right here in the video. And like I said, you can schedule a call with me directly and or via our website. Thank you so much.